Hey good people, Batavia here with Be Better Garden. I have a special plant edition. See you in a few. Okie doke, so before we dig in, a housekeeping item or two. Thanks to all who have watched videos, who have subscribed, thanks to those that comment, that I chat with back and forth. I appreciate you. And if you haven't subscribed already, please think about subscribing below. It's free. And you can hit that notification bell so you're alerted each time I share more #GardenJoy. Alrighty, so I have a plant project. In part, it's a plant haul as well. So I was experiencing a bit of spring fever earlier in the year, and I knew that I had a couple of things to do with my indoor plants, which most of these have been indoor plants I've had in my home. And in particular, I had this peace lily back here who is turning 5 years old this year, and it has basically outgrown this pot. I knew that I needed to repot it, and also I'm going to divide it. So I'm going to actually create a few plants out of this one. And as I was looking for a new planter, a new pot to use, or a new few pots, I really wanted to kind of go with this color scheme here. This plant and a few others sit in this window, and I kind of have a scheme going on when it comes to the color of those pots. But anywho, I've been looking around for additional pots that kind of fit that color scheme, and I probably found more plants than I did pots. So everything that's basically on this side of me, these are new additions to my plant home. Everything from kind of this half and around have always lived here, or lived here for a while, I should say. So as I gathered everything, I kept on bringing plants in. I knew that in addition to repotting this baby, I needed to repot one or two others. I decided to make a project out of it. And who doesn't love a good project, especially when it has to do with plants? So I pulled all of my plants together, kind of the mainstays and the newer additions. And then I also, over on my dining room table, it's been the home for many of the pots, the planters that I've had that I'll be repurposing, and then some of the new ones that I bought. So with all of that said, when I had all of this pulled into one place, I thought, let me share it with my YouTube and social media friends. So here I am. I want to go through a couple of things today. This may be a longer video for those that have watched the channel and seen kind of my love for flowers and my love for gardening. I also have a love for plants, and that really makes me kind of a jack of all trades, but a master of none. So this is a little bit different. There's still the same passion that I have for growing things, but I don't want this to be a how-to because I'm still learning. I've been tending to plants for as long as I've been working in a garden, and there's still a lot that I get wrong. So my goal today really is just to share with you some of the ones that I really love, some of the struggles that I've had with plants, some of the newer ones that I'm hoping maybe you all can give me some advice on for those plant lovers. So I'm going to go ahead and dig in. I'm going to share almost every plant that I have here. I'm going to start off with at the top of the table. There are a bunch of succulents that I won't necessarily go into. These are super duper decorative more than anything. And I end up buying a bunch of these quite often because even though they're succulents and they don't require that much watering, somehow I still can't get that right. So I have about 6 or so of these out front. But then if I dig in, I'm going to start with the plant, at least one that I don't know the name of. I think it is a pothos or a philodendron. I'm not sure, but I love the green leaf with the kind of silver variegation. This actually sits in my kitchen. I really love having plants in the kitchen. My kitchen now is all white, so having these different pops of green and kind of real living things in my kitchen, I just love it. So if you know what that plant is, please do tell me. I'm pretty sure that I've kind of searched, taken a picture and searched on the internet, but the name just doesn't stick with me. So the next up, and some of these have been sitting here for a while as I prepared to film this, so they need a little bit of tending to, a little bit of water in some of these. This is one of my favorites. This is about a year and a half old. So a Maranta, a prayer plant. This one I believe requires a low light based on where I've had it. And from what I understand, you know, similar to gardening, most things like sun, but they'll tolerate low light. And so that's the same thing here. You're going to see a theme as I walk through these. I am a big fan of keeping plants inside of the nursery pots that I bought them in. If I can help it, I don't want to kind of repot a plant. It's one of my least favorite things to do. I don't mind digging in dirt when it comes to the garden and outside, but I'm just not crazy about kind of bringing plants home and then transferring them to other pots and all. So what I do a lot of is I will take this croton here and I'll just slide it into another pot, like a more decorative pot. And I will continue to care for it. I'll water it, and if it has a drainage hole, I'll let the water drain out of the cover pot or the decorative pot. If it doesn't, I'll water the plant and then I'll just take it out of the pot and dump the excess water out. So that's kind of my MO. You'll see some of these plants, and some of them I'll tell you how long I've had them. I've had for years, and they still are in the same nursery pot. So I've actually seen a couple of videos and read a couple of things that say that's not such a bad thing. If the plant is healthy when you bring it home, you may be better off leaving it in the pot because it experiences a bit of shock, kind of leaving one environment and then coming into another. But I know that there are different schools of thought when it comes to stuff like this. So for right now, that's been my way for a number of years. And until these beauties prove otherwise, I'm going to continue down that road. All right, so this is, I have a bunch of these, as you're going to see. This is one of my favorites. This is a philodendron, and I don't want to break the branch. Okay, so this is a vining plant. So I know some of the main names, but I may not know like the specific variety and the specific name of it. But I love this one. This actually sits kind of behind the camera. This sits right in the window that's near my porch, but it doesn't get a bunch of light. Then I actually, I told a fib. This little area, these are all three. I have three of these down here, three baby philodendrons, and these are new. So it looks like I commingled some things. But these are babies. They're a bit dry. But generally they're low light. So this is per the tag, a Brazil philodendron, which I have another one of those back there. So I have three of those, and I just love the vining and how it kind of just flows down. So you'll see that theme in some of my plants. I believe this is a peperomia. And this poor thing, I've not been the best plant mom to it. It sits in the kitchen. And you'll see the ones that have been suffering a bit are the ones that have sat in the kitchen. And I'm pretty sure this really needs medium light. And I've now convinced myself that my kitchen is really a low light area. So I'm going to move this one once I get everything situated into a better lit area. So that is this container. This is a couple of years old. This is a ficus rubber plant. And this is the second time I've had it in my home. So the first time, again, I wasn't the best plant mom, so it didn't make it. So I ended up getting another one because I really like the plant. And I even have some new growth here. But you'll also see it's still sitting in the nursery pot. So this is the same pot that I bought it in 2 years ago. And it's still doing okay. Could probably use another pot and some fresh soil. And I may do that, but most importantly, I'm going to clean this plant up. It's a bit dusty. This one gathers dust. And I just need to clean this up a bit. But this is the theme, right? You know, so probably a 2-year-old plant that's still sitting in the same pot. But just a quick note, and I'm not trying to convert you. It's helpful for me because when I move things around, I can see this one still likes bright light, right? So if I take this tag off or if I put it in a different pot, I may forget that. Of course, it's just an internet search away, but it's super duper convenient to be able to read this here and be able to quickly identify what it needs. All right, we're going to move along because otherwise we'll be here all night. Let's see. This is a bird's bird's eye fern. Let's see if I got that right. Bird's nest fern. So this actually was, it's a newer edition. I got it last summer, and it's set on the back porch, and that really gets about, I don't know, morning sun and then really afternoon shade. Let's see what the tag says. Bright light. So I've also had it since winter came. I had it in this window here, and it's done really well. This is everything. This is the pot that it came in. I didn't care for the color of this pot much, so I actually had it sitting in another pot. But I realized as I was kind of pulling everything together for this project, it doesn't have any drainage holes in it. So this is like Plant 101, and shame on me for not looking at it. And that explains the kind of, I've noticed a couple of yellow leaves every now and again. And so like this is an example of a leaf that's about to turn yellow. So I think it really is because it's kind of sitting in that water. So as a part of this project, I will put this in a different pot and then drill some holes in it. All right, I have one more of the kind of current plants, and this one isn't doing great. This has been in the basement. I think this is I keep on getting philodendrons and pothos mixed up, so it's one or the other. But this has been in the basement, which again is not really a well-lit area, and I think it wants more light than I'm giving it. All right. Next up is one of my favorites. I want to make sure you can see it all. So I'm gonna pick it up here. This is a dumb cane. Let's see. I know, right? So it is about 1.5 years old, and it is still sitting in a nursery pot as well. But this plant has gotten so tall. I actually have one more over here, which I'll show you, and it started off that same height, but it's just grown straight up. I have lost some leaves, and you can even see me trying to save this one here. But I'm in love with this plant. I love the green, kind of green and white specks here. And this sits in the window because if I remember correctly from the tag, it really likes kind of bright and direct light. So let's move you out of the way. This is probably one that I will put in an actual pot. I think it's time for some fresh soil and me to care for it a bit more. All right, I don't know if you can see it, so I'm gonna pull it over with 2 hands. This is an ornamental banana leaf plant. So for this one, I bought this last summer, and this has been sitting on the back porch during the summer from one of my nurseries, and it's done okay. I brought it in before the weather went cold. There's some leaves that have turned yellow. I wonder if this is from overwatering or perhaps it's in too sunny of a spot. I'm not sure. But I still do have some new leaves that are forming. So in some cases I'm doing something wrong, in other cases I'm doing something right. But this is definitely one that I am going to take out of this pot. I'm going to see if I can separate it. I can see kind of separate plants here. I'm not sure how they're connected from the root. But I'm going to put this in a different pot, perhaps separate them, divide them, and then give it again some fresh soil. Let's see here. And almost all of these, with the exceptions of the ones that are kind of in this tier here, these plants have been sitting in this window here and getting plenty of sun. So this is one this is a sad tale. So the story is actually pretty interesting, but this is a snake plant. This is actually from a neighbor. So the quick version of the story is I was outside gardening last summer. She had pulled up and said, "Hey, I've been looking for you. I need some help with my plants." And I told her straight out, "Hey, I love the garden. You know, I do well with growing things outdoors. Sometimes I'm neglectful indoors. So I'll take a look at what you have, but no guarantees." So anyway, she brought 2 plants back. One of them was dead on arrival. But the snake plant, from what I could tell, just really needed to be repotted, which again, I'm not a fan of, but I'll do it if it's absolutely necessary. And so when I first got it, I didn't do enough research on it. So I know that I was overwatering it, and I'm pretty sure she had too, because the leaves were droopy when I got it, and then they remained droopy. So this has been in my home for like, 10 months almost. And it's still droopy. So I'm not sure. I don't know what y'all think. I can definitely see two separate plants here. Like I can see the separation here. And I even see a little bit of new growth, new leaves. So I'm not sure. I'm tempted. I know it's starting to add up. I'm tempted to repot this and perhaps plant the roots a bit deeper. I'm even considering kind of maybe training it to kind of maybe with a little bit of a string, positioning it so it can continue to learn to grow up. If you have suggestions on it, let me know. I'm not crazy about snake plants in general, and maybe that's because mine has looked kind of pitiful. But I do want to revive this one. It's just really nice to be able to get something from a neighbor and then care for it in your home. All right, so we went over the peace lily already. I have two of these plants. These are Hoyas or rope plants, and these are like maybe 3 years old. And there hasn't been great growth, and I think it's because I have it on the stairway in a windowsill, but it's super close. My house is super close to the house next door. So there is a light, but there's not a bunch of light. It's not like this window here where light just kind of shines in. So I don't know if it's getting as much sun as it would like. I must admit, even though I walk past, the plants every day along the stairs, there have been times where I've noticed, oh, they're super dry. And so I've just had to go back in and water them. So maybe there's a little bit of stress based on that, but I have two of these. For now, I'm going to leave them in the pot. This is the pot I bought it in. It's hardy enough. But maybe I'll just take it out to look at the roots to see how it's doing. I'm going to slide this down here. Let's take a small water break. All right. So any more behind me that we need to cover off on? All right, so those behind me on this side are the newer ones, so we'll come back around. I have a couple of your lucky bamboos. Both of these sit in the kitchen, and they do pretty okay. Again, remember, now we know the kitchen is a low light area. We already covered the Maranta. This is one of my favorites, and this is probably the third plant that I've had of this nature. This is another one that sits in the kitchen, and again, clearly the tag says medium light, and that's just not enough light in my kitchen. But it's a purple waffle plant, and I just love kind of the deep green and purple leaves, and on the underside they're almost always all purple. I love this plant. I've actually this one that I have, I've moved it closer to the sun, closer to the window over here, and it seems to be holding on pretty strong. This is a jade plant, and I've had a bunch of these as succulents, as smaller succulents, and this one is again one that I'd had kind of the smaller succulents like this. I had them in the kitchen. You already know the deal there. So I moved this to this window here as well, and it's been doing pretty well. Let's see. I think this is the Calathea medallion. So these are, again, all of my poor kitchen plants that have struggled. These leaves are so tattered because this is another example of a plant that just gets super dry. This is in the same pot that I bought it in from the nursery. I'm going to refresh the soil. It's not outgrowing the pot. And instead, I think it just needs a bit of refreshing from a soil perspective. I'm going to confess, I don't do a lot of like plant food or fertilizing my plants. I probably should, but that's just not my jam. And I think in some cases the plants obviously suffer from it. But I don't know that I'm ready to change that yet. Maybe you all will encourage me to be a better plant mom. This is one that I don't know the name of. It's still in the nursery tag. I looked this up a couple of times and I found the name of it, but it's been tattered. Another kitchen plant, and yeah, I'm gonna continue to try to nurse it though. So if this looks familiar to you, let me know. Let's see. I think that represents the kind of current plants in my home. So now we'll dig into the new ones. So some of these, again, I won't know the names of them, but I still have the tags. This one says my full name is Houseplant. So I don't remember the name of this one, but I love, again, the green and white and how this looks. I've actually taken a picture, searched online, said, oh, that's the name of it, forgotten the name. I've done that 2 or 3 different times, and the name still escapes me. Let's see. Either a philodendron or a pothos. Let's see the tag. Pothos, golden pothos, which I think is the same one as the one that was on that kind of rope that went around. So golden pothos here. This is a newer edition, I think. This is another Caletheia. This is like pretty new. I love it. It almost looks like these lines are painted. So it's a green, a deep green, and like a purplish look, and then there's like a pink tint, almost like stripes. So pretty. I'll have to look up kind of the conditions that this one wants to live in. Oh wait, hold on. Slowly or showy decorative leaves, medium light. So we know this shouldn't be in the kitchen. Here is one more I don't know the name of. But again, kind of the way that the leaves present themselves, either the coloring or kind of how the leaves grow, that's what really draws me to some of these plants. So this one I thought was just kind of cute. So I bought that. Here is, let's see, I watered this one before we got started. I don't remember the name of this one. Oh, I do. Peperomia, which again is in this family. They look different, but they're the same plant. I did double back and look at that a couple of times, and I did remember that. I have one more. This was supposed to be, or at least when I saw it, I thought it was a different plant that I had on my plant list, but it's not. But I still loved it when it comes to the green here, and then again, there's kind of this blush pink that kind of comes out. And the name of this one is a Sigonium Berry Illusion Arrowhead plant. All right, so rounding around, I am not crazy about cactuses, or cacti, I guess. I think they're super interesting, but I've never seen one that I wanted in my home until I saw this one. So this is a Hawaiian, dogtail cactus. Let me see if I got that right. Yeah, dogtail cactus. But it was a struggle getting it home. I actually put it in the trunk, and I should have put it in like the bottom of the like the back seat or something, like on the floor, because there are a bunch of the spikes that broke off. I've actually tried to root those again, so I put them in some dirt, and we'll see if I get more plants out of it. I'm gonna put this over here because it is kind of prickly, and I can see I'm sticking myself. All right, so it's not that heavy. I'll pick it up here. New edition or newer edition. This is another philodendron, but it's so unique compared to some of the other ones, right? Like this is so different compared to this one here. This is a split leaf philodendron. And truth be told, when I first saw it, it caught my eye and I thought it was a monstera. And so that's on my plant list, but it's not. But I still thought it was super cool. So this one wants a bit more shade. It actually has a tag that kind of speaks to it being outside, as every plant really wants to be outside. So I am going to leave it in that nursery pot. It has aerial roots, which I may not be able to show you here, if you probably can't see that. But the roots kind of come up to the top. Maybe I'll slide a picture in there if you couldn't see that. Oh, I share that to say, like, otherwise it's not, it's not root bound or anything. So I'm going to leave it in that nursery pot for a while longer. All right, so here we go. More new ones. Hawaiian spider plant. This is just cool, right? Like, I'm not crazy about ferns, although this fern is super cool, right? One of my favorites now. But this kind of reminds me of a fern. So it's not, but I just love like all of the green, right? And then kind of the spikes. So this one's a high light plant. I'm actually, in addition to this area, and putting again plants that really like light in this area, being mindful of what my kitchen requires, I have a couple of other areas in my house where I am kind of outfitting with plants. So I have plenty of space, if you will, for kind of some of these sun-loving or light-loving plants. Which actually reminds me, as I was shopping for plants, I thought, I mean, these were multiple trips I was bringing plants in. And it was, I mean, you're talking like winter going into spring. And I thought, like, you know, come on, B, are you doing too much here? And so, and I have that thought in my mind with a lot of things, including gardening. And then I realized once I got all the plants here and in my home and them kind of all together, I was like, absolutely not. Like, you have room for so many more, right? So just a little positive pep talk for myself. So this is a Brazil pothos? No, philodendron. So Brazil philodendron. You probably can guess. One, this one's kind of vining. That's what's going to happen. So that's one of the reasons I like it. I love, love, love kind of the specks of, or the stripes of yellow. You all can tell me, I first thought this plant was sickly, and it still may be. But then again, what I've read is like this plant kind of has this type of leaf coloring. And maybe it's because it's not getting enough light. I don't know, what do you think? I'd love for this to be normal and for the plant to just naturally do this. But if not, you know, we'll see. So this one is marked low light, as a lot of the philodendrons are. I don't know, I love it. All right, let's get you out of the way. Oh. All right, so that's a philodendron. Then this is a pothos. And this is a, oh sorry, I was admiring it. Marble Queen or Queen Marble. Let me see if I got that right. Yeah, Marble Queen. It says MB. So I'm sure that's Marble Queen pothos. So cool. It reminds me of the dumb cane plant. The leaf coloring is a little bit different, but I can't wait for this to start growing and draping down. So pretty. So pothos and philodendron, from everything I know, are plants that really can live in lower light conditions. So we'll see. And I have some low light areas as well. So put that over to the side. I have one plant that I want to get out of the way. So this is a newer plant, newer to my home, I should say, the poor thing. I got this from my grandfather's house. In addition to a super cool tension rod plant holder. So they go from kind of floor to ceiling, and then it has the kind of hanging spots where you can just hang plants. So this was the only plant that was still alive hanging on it. So I have, as my mom would say, I'm gonna have to doctor on this one. And my hope is to be able to bring it back to my grandfather's house and it be kind of lush. So it may take a bit of time, but I'm committed. Alrighty. And I think, again, I'm not sure, pothos or philodendron. It's hard for me to tell. There are a couple of tips that I've read when it comes to you making the difference between the two. I don't remember them right now, though. All right, so this is a Dieffenbachia. So Becky, second time I've had this one in my home. It's supposed to like bright light. Let me see, I still have the tag on it. Still in the nursery pot. Let's see. Yeah, highlight. But I had it in the window with some of the other kind of bright light plants. And the first one I had, kind of the leaves burned up. Some of the leaves died off. So, I mean, it could be my watering patterns. It could have been that. But I just wonder if I was giving it too much light. Shoot, I don't know. Is there a difference between highlight and bright light? But this one looks pretty good. I'm going to put it back in the window, but further away, and just keep an eye on it. I really like the kind of brightness. So these leaves are obviously dark around the edges, but there's a certain brightness when you look at the inner part of the leaf. You know, so it starts off as white, gets a little bit lighter green, then gets dark green. It's just super cool. All right, so we're finishing up here. I'm not sure how we're doing on time, but we got through this a lot quicker than I thought we would. This is, well, I'm going to go through one more. So this is another dumb cane. All All right, so just as I said, I wasn't sure how I was doing on time. I got a beep that I had reached the maximum time for the recording. So this is going kind of long, but we're wrapping up. Anywho, I was talking about the dumb cane. So this is another dumb cane. This other one's all the way over here now, but let's see. You can see some of the leaves here. This plant was the same size as this plant when I brought it home like a year and a half ago, or however long I've had it. And I can't wait for this one to grow up tall like that. I am just gonna love it. It came home with a few damaged leaves, but I'm gonna nurse it a bit. It's gonna stay in this pot. I'm just gonna slide it into a more decorative pot, which I'm gonna do with most of these newer ones that I've brought into the home. So maybe I'll give you all an update as some of these plants grow up. This section here, and I think maybe this was intentional. So there's a whole section here on the same plant, the name of it, Dracaenas. So I have 3 of them. There are 3 different types. I don't know the specific type they each are, but I bought all of these at the same time on a bit of clearance, or at least when I spoke to the manager, I got a bit of a discount on them. They were a bit unhealthy. I did some pruning on the leaves, and I have been caring for them. They, from what I've gathered, they like it to be a little bit dry, the soil, so I've been careful not to overwater it. So then finally, the very last plant, which kind of saves the best for last, I'm actually going to walk around and so I found it in Lowe's and it was like 44 bucks, and then it was 50% off clearance. And I still thought, because it was a bit damaged, that, you know, I didn't want to pay 22 bucks for it. And so I ended up getting it for 10. Those are the plants. I have 3 others in the home. Again, I brought everything here, but I have 3 others, 2 crotons that are big size that have come from outside, and they've been in my on my back deck over the summer, and I brought them inside, kept them alive, and they're so heavy I didn't want to have to haul it down here. And then there is a fiddle fig leaf. Fergie is upstairs, and I just, you know, it's a struggle managing that particular plant, and I just didn't want to kind of move it again and have it sitting down here for a while. But that is my plant home. I am going to lastly, and probably in a separate video since this one's gone kind of long, once I get the things that I'm repotting, repot it. Once I get the things that I'm putting back in cover pots, back in those pots. You know, once all of that's settled, I'll do maybe one update to show kind of what everything looks like. And then maybe even where they are going to live. So some of these plants, again, are going to live in different spaces in my home. So maybe I'll share that with you all as well if you all enjoy this one. So I'm going to wrap up here. I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, and for sure if you have any recommendations or tips, drop them below, and I shall chat with you all later. Thanks for watching.